So, continuing our lesson on the beginning of World War One, and trying to connect back to the book we'll read about the beginning, Guns of August, Chapter 1. We're going to be looking at a reading strategy called sourcing. Now, sourcing is just trying to find the content about the piece through analyzing multiple questions like who is the author's reasoning, the author's perspective, and when and where the work was created. So, as practice, I've handed out this sheet, and in this sheet, you'll see that we'll be analyzing the Schlieffen plan. And so, let's begin. Now, the author, it's kind of right in the name, kind of obvious, but if we look at our link to our reference, we can see that it's Alfred von Schlieffen, so German General Staff. We can put that down. Now, with seeing that he's ahead of the German General Staff, we can also point to what we've been learning about with Maine in regarding the reasons for the outbreak of World War I. So militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. With Alfred von Schlieffen being the chief of German General Staff, we can already put this one in terms of the militarism category. Next question is the author's reasoning. So we can see through this map right here that it looks like Germany wants to go through Belgium instead of just attacking France this way. If we go to a reference sheet again, we can see that Germany wanted a quick and decisive victory over France. And we can use our prior knowledge and our intuition to see that. We've learned about the Franco-Prussian War in 1871 that created Germany. And Germany, even though it was a quick war in terms of, wars to come, it was a pretty brutal war. And especially most of the war, there was a siege around Paris. And so the Schlieffen Plan was an analyzation of what do we need to get done in order to defeat France quickly and decisively. And so they're going to go through Belgium, a weaker country, hoping that they either can overrun Belgium, a smaller nation, or they'll let them through and just attack France from there, instead of having to face the main French forces here along the actual Franco-German border. So we can say quick author's perspective. Well, again, it's coming from the German perspective, but we also want to put militarism kind of addressed with what we were saying about who's the author question. This is coming from the German military perspective. So again, that ties into the militarism aspect of why this war is breaking out. So we can put that down as well. So when the work was created, so we can go back to our reference sheet here and see 1905. So that's 9 years before World War I breaks out. Now think about that. You have been planning for at least 9 years since this Schlieffen Plan has been created for this war, and it enacts it 9 years later in basically the exact way that it was planned out. And it almost worked. That's the thing. And so again, we're seeing that 1905, there's already some tensions building, as we saw previous in the lessons, with regards to some of the aspects of imperialism in Africa and Asia between the major European powers. But 1905 is when Germany says, we have to get something down on paper just in case another large European war breaks out. Something that hadn't been since the Napoleonic Wars, almost 100 years before. So we got that down. And the last question that we have to analyze here when thinking about sourcing is, where was it created? So yes, of course, we can say it was created in Germany, but we can be more specific and say the German Empire. Yes. So kind of what I was saying about the last question, there had been multiple outbreaks of little clashes or diplomatic conflicts in the years prior to just the Schlieffen Plan, not even just World War I. And so German Empire only grabbed a couple smaller colonies, less important than the British or French possessions in Africa and in Asia. And Germany's main goal, kind of what we've seen, is that they want control of Europe, the European plain. And this is something that in the next World War, World War II, the idea of Lebensraum, the idea of having room for the German people to grow, having room to grab resources from other important regions, and making sure that you're the supreme power on the continent. So when analyzing all these different sourcing questions, yes, it can be quick like this, but we're also thinking more deeply about it, connecting to previous lessons and going back and looking at the sheet, connecting to further lessons, which is why I'm giving you another sourcing sheet, this time for a grade to use for tonight and the rest of this class, to analyze chapter 1 of the Guns of August, analyzing the outbreak of the war put forth by the author, and analyzing each one of these questions and seeing how it can connect back to the idea of Maine and the idea of militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism, and how World War I started. So we'll get started on that.